Hi everyone, welcome back to our YouTube channel Zero Analyst. This is the day 18 of our 30 days Python series. Today you will be learning everything about data cleaning using Pandas. Now after this video, you will be mastering how to clean data, how to identify duplicates, how to remove duplicates, how to identify missing values, how to replace missing values, or how to drop that particular rows or columns where you have missing values. Additionally, you will also learn how to change existing table or data frame columns name, or how to change existing columns and data types. So all this topic you will be learning one by one, which is going to be really helpful for cleaning data in your next project. So let's jump into the screen and let's start the today's video. Also, I'm going to add all these resources in the video description, so make sure to download all these resources so that you can basically practice by yourself. So let's first import the libraries that we're going to use in this video. So first I need the pandas, which is I'm importing pandas as a PD because already I have the pandas installed in my this workspace. If you want to know what are the things that is installed, you can go to terminal and you can just type pip list. That's going to give you the entire list of packages that you already have in your workspace, which is called in your virtual environment. Now even if you do not know how to create virtual environment, you can go through the video 1, which is day 1 of this series, and I have already shown you how to create this virtual environment. So here you can see I have pandas, which I would be using. I would also need numpy, I would also need OpenExcels to work with the excels and data sets, and all those libraries are installed which I need. Okay, so if you do not have it, you can just reinstall it. Simply just need to type pip install pandas, and then you would be able to install it. So that I have covered in the day 1 of pandas of this series. Okay, once we learn all this topic, we will be working with the actual data frame, which you can see, which is I have dummy sales data sets and I have Walmart sales data sets. So we'll be cleaning the actual data after we learn all this topic, which you can see I have 2 example data sets. So we're going to clean this both the data frame, and then we will kind of export it back as Excels. Okay, so let's first go ahead and first start with the first topic, which is called removing duplicates. Now before that, we need to install the libraries. So I have kind of inserted the commands, which is called import pandas as PD, and OpenPyExcels, XLRD, and NumPy. So these are the 4 library that we will need. So you can just execute it. You can see it is installed now, and also my virtual environment is selected. Okay, now I have some kind of sample data set, which is called small data set here, which we will be using for the practice purpose. Okay, now if you see here, it's kind of simple data frame. So I have something called sales ID, where I have it here, and I have something called customers ID. So these are the customers ID, these are the sales representative IDs. Okay, so let's go ahead and run this. So it has created something called df1. Let's go ahead and see df1. So you can see df1 has sales ID and the customers 2 columns, and this is the index. Now if you see this columns, this records, which is called 101 and SAM, and this records, they both are same, right? So that means this record is going to be duplicates, correct? So this is a small data set. What if like we have a really large data set? How do you identify? Now how do you call this the duplicates, right? See, there could be one way that you can check by this column sale ID. So if there is one more sale ID, so that second sale ID would be automatically duplicates. That is by checking specifically one columns. What if in case you want to check by all columns? So that means if any rows that has the same records and we have one more rows with the same records, the second row is going to be duplicates, right? So if you want to understand this, it's going to be very simple that if there is everything that you have in this row has the same with another row, that's the second row is a duplicate, right? Like here. So that means we need to identify this row as a duplicate. So let's see how to identify this specifically, this row as a duplicate. So you can see our data frame name is called df1. So after the data frame name, you just need to write dot and you just need to write duplicated. Okay, now there are 2 things. One is called duplicates, one is called duplicated. We will learn both. So one is called duplicated. Now if you see this duplicated, it's kind of says that a return boolean series denoting duplicate rows. So wherever it has a duplicate rows, wherever it find a duplicate rows, the entire rows, it's going to return true or false. So something like it. Okay, so let's go ahead and see it. Now it says that this second row is a duplicate. Now if you see in the second row, I would just print it df1 again. The second row, it's showing the second row is duplicate. So this is the second row, right? This is the 0th row, this is the 4th row, this is the second row. Basically it's a third row. So it says that this row has a duplicates, right? So that is correct, because you see, even if you see it here, right? So this is the duplicate rows, right? Just ignore about this index. It is identifying this row as a duplicate. So you basically see that for entire rows, true or false. False means it's not duplicate, true means that is duplicates, right? Now how do we see it? Now we can just see true and false, right? So this true and false I can just use as a condition, as a filtering condition, which you have learned yesterday. So you just need to put df1 and this condition. That means you're saying, hey, from df1 I need everything based on these conditions, right? If you now run this query, you would see that only the true records that you see, wherever this is the duplicates you see for that records. So that is the index number 2. So this is how you find all the rows that has duplicates. Okay, so that we have seen, this is the duplicates. Let's add one more records. Okay, so let's say I'm going to add 301 again, and I'm going to add this call Mike. Okay, so now we have one more duplicates, which is going to be the last records, right? So let's go ahead and execute it, and let's run it. And you see now we have basically this fourth and the fifth, both the rows are, this rows is a duplicate, this is the unique. The first one get basically false, second one get is unique, right? So if you now run this query, you will see two records are duplicates. Okay, so this is how you find the duplicates. Now we will see something else. Okay, so we got to know how to find duplicates for the entire rows. Okay, what if in case you want to know only for the specific rows? So let me just give an example. Okay, let me just say that I want to export it as excels. So I would say 2 excels, and let's say x. So let's open this. I have just exported as excels to show you this example. So here you can see I have opened the same data in excels. Now if you see, this record is the unique, right? This is the first record, this is the duplicates, right? So let's highlight it, this is the duplicates, and this is also going to be duplicates, right? So this is how you can identify that, okay, this row is a duplicates and this row is a duplicates, correct? Let's say there's a one more column that's called maybe country. Okay, so that means this customer is from, let's say, India, this customer is also from India, and this customer is also from India, this customer from US, this customer is from India. Okay, now the thing is that this is a duplicates, I mean this is a duplicates, right? So you can say this is a duplicates, but this is not duplicates, right? Why? Because this mic is from US and this mic is from India. So that means here what we need to tell is that, hey, I need to find the duplicates by, if I use entire columns, right? So that's not going to be duplicates, correct? Because this is not a duplicates of this. So this is how we know that to become a duplicates, everything in that row must be duplicates of another row, right? So this row is not duplicates of this because in this row the country is different. But if we just change it to maybe US, then this will be duplicates of this, right? So now we will see that how to find duplicates based on some columns, right? Not, let's say we are going to say that, okay, ignore this column. Okay, let's say we are saying ignore this last column, only based on these two columns get me the duplicates. That means I would say duplicate based on this and this columns. Okay, so that's, we call it as a subset. We will see that now. Now for that, let's see the second data set. So the second data set, I have order ID and I have product. So in order ID you can see I have 1 1 2 3. Okay, but if you see product, iPhone 14, Mac, and all these 4 product, let's see the data frame. Okay, so I would say df2. So here you can see the data frame. I have the first order, which is iPhone, that's order ID 1. The second order is a Mac, but the order ID seems to be 1. Okay, so here you can say that this is not a duplicate of this, but if you look by the order ID, if you say that the order ID is your main key, which is called primary key, that means this would be duplicates, correct? Because they both have the same order ID, or you need to change this order ID, correct? So let's see how we can find out based on this order ID. I need to find the duplicates. Now I'm going to show you that if you simply say that, hey, data frame 2 dot duplicate it, and if you just run this, you would see that there is no duplicates at the moment. So it couldn't find any duplicates because all these rows are, kind of distinct. So this row and this row and all those rows are non-duplicates because one row doesn't match with the another row, right? You see here, though the ID is same, but basically this product name is not same. So if in case you want to only ensure that, hey, I only need the duplicates if the ID has the one more existent, the second existent would be duplicates. For that, what you need to say is that here you just need to see something called subset, and you can just give your column name, which is called order ID. Order ID. Okay, now we are saying that I need the duplicates based on this subset order ID. So that means it's only going to check this order ID. If in case there is one more order ID with the same ID, that's going to be duplicates. Now let's see. You see this time it's telling me that this second record is a duplicate. Okay, we want to see it. So just put this in a square brackets outside, right, df2, and you see that you can see this one is showing as a duplicates. Why? Because we have set the first column as a subset. Okay, now let's see what else the parameters this duplicated function takes. So for that, we can just write df2 dot duplicated. You can write a question mark here, and you will be able to see the detailed explanations of these functions. Okay, you can see it takes a subset. In the subset, you can give basically one columns or multiple columns in a list. Okay, So it's going to basically take those columns, and based on those columns it's going to find the duplicates. You can see it's a return boolean series, that means true or false series, and considering certain columns is optional. So that means if you define the subset, then only it's going to check based on those columns, otherwise it's going to check for all the columns. Okay, that is it. Now let's go ahead and kind of come out of it. Now you have learned how to find duplicates based on a specific columns or based on a subset, which is basically based on few columns. Now let's see how to remove duplicates. Okay, so let's go to our first data frames where we have data and we have sales and this informations, and we have two duplicates here, which is called this record 2 and the record 4, the index. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's say we want to delete these duplicates. So to delete these duplicates, what you just need to write is that very simple. You can just go ahead and add a code cell here. You can write df1 dot, you can just write, which is called drop duplicates. Okay, so this time you need to write something called drop duplicates. Okay, now if I just go ahead and kind of show you the functionality of this drop duplicates, we can just go ahead and see it here. It says called return data frame with a duplicate rows are removed. So basically it's going to return a new data frames where all the duplicates would be gone. Okay, now considering certain columns is optional, so here also you can define certain columns. Now based on basically the columns, it's going to find the duplicates and it's going to remove the duplicates, and you will see the data set. Now it is not going to remove the duplicates from the actual data frame, but you would be getting the clean data as an output. You can store that in a new data frame. What if in case you want to remove this duplicates from the actual, then you just need to use something called in place equals true, which we will see that. Okay, so we need to use something called in place equals true. By default it is false. By default it doesn't remove it, but you see a clean output. So for that, let's first go ahead and kind of run this in a parenthesis. We can just execute it. So now you can see here is that we are getting the output where we don't see the duplicates. If you want to see the actual data sets, so let's see it. So in the actual data sets, we have kind of this, which is called Mike. The fourth record is duplicates, and we have the Sam is the duplicates, right? But if you see in this output, we don't have those duplicates anymore. Now you can save this into something called df1 underscore new, and here we can just execute it, and we can say df1, this doesn't contain any duplicates. Okay, but if you see the df1, the old one that has a duplicates, you can see that still have the duplicates. Okay, now let's go ahead and see that how we can actually remove this duplicates from the actual data frame. So for that, you would just need to add a parameters called in place equals true. Okay, so even if you do not save it, it's going to work fine. So let me just come out of this, maybe add a new cell, and let's run it, which is called df1 of drop duplicates and in place equals true. So this is going to remove the duplicates from the actual data frame. I can print the data frame for you at the end. You can see now the data frame only has 3 records. So that means those duplicates are already removed from the data frame. Now here I have basically mentioned the duplicates for the all columns. I have not defined for any specific columns. Let's go ahead and create it, and let's kind of say that I want to remove duplicates for a specific columns. Let's use the second example for that. Okay, so data frame 2 has this, based on this order ID, this would be the duplicates, right? Based on this order ID, otherwise this is not a duplicate. So let's see how we can delete the duplicate based on this order ID. So for that, I would just go ahead and say that df2 dot, which is called drop, so drop duplicates, this one, and here I would need to give the subset, because I would need to tell that, hey, I only want to find the duplicates and remove the duplicates based on this order ID. So that means it is going to check for each row if the order ID is same. If that is same, then it's going to remove the duplicates. Now if in case you want to remove it from the actual data frame, then you need to write something called in place equals true here. Okay, so let's go ahead and print the actual data frame now. So before that, you have seen that I have printed the data frame. I have 4 record. Now I can just go ahead and print it. You see now I have 3 records. Okay, so this is how you can kind of remove duplicates based on a specific columns. Even you can give multiple columns as a list here. So that is on you how you want to give it. If in case you want to give it multiple columns, you can just put multiple columns as a list. So you can just put the second column as a product ID. Okay, now again, because it has already deleted, let's go back and let's now give it. See, this time it is not remove the duplicates, because now we are trying to find duplicate based on 2 columns, based on two columns, it's not a duplicate, right? The second record is not a duplicate. So that's the reason it did not remove the duplicates. Okay, so this is how you kind of remove the duplicates, and this is how you identify the duplicates. This concept is, I have very clear. Now you need to just do some practice. Again, we will do on this actual data frame, so that's where this concept is going to be more clear. Okay, now let's see the next topic. So that's going to be kind of handling with null values, and null values are very common in the data frame. So once the data duplicates are gone, then the next task would be kind of finding out if there's a null. Okay, now what is null? We will see that, and how to identify nulls, we would also see that. Okay, and what are the options you have with a null, we will see that. Okay, so let's go ahead and see our third data frame. So in the third data frame, intentionally I have kept some null. So here null is a part of NumPy. So using NumPy you can create null. Usually if you see an Excel data set, let's say if I don't have it something here, okay, so you don't see it, right? But this is a null. That means the data is a missing. I can delete this. So this is the null, this is the null, this is the null. Okay, so these are the example of null. Let me just save it and let me just use that. Okay, so that means this test I can use. I can go ahead and say pd.read Excel, and I can just go ahead and say that what is called test1 XLS, and let's kind of import it something called df4. Okay, so df4, let's go ahead and print it. You see now I have some null which is called this, which is the second record, the customer's ID is missing. Third record, this sales ID is missing. Okay, so this is where you can see the second record, this is the null, right? And this is the null. So we have three nulls, and we also have this is a null. Now how do we identify that? Okay, where do you have nulls? Okay, to see that, to see a data frame, if in case you want to find out null, so you just need to say that df, which is called data frame name, then you just need to write is null. Okay, is null or is null, you can use both. So is null, and if you just execute this, it's going to tell you wherever it can see nulls. You see the entire data frame. Now here you can see that we have nulls, which is this one and this one and this one. So wherever you see null, it's kind of returning as a true, right? So this is how you can find nulls. Now there is one more way to see how many nulls each column has. So for that you just need to say here after this end, you just need to press a dot here after that, and then you can just say sum, and you can just use this parenthesis. So this is going to return a sum of all those are true. So here I have kind of one null, here I have kind of one null. So in this columns one null, and this column also one null. So I would just see the column and the number of nulls we have. This is one way. The second way, you can simply say df4 dot info. Okay, using info also you can identify manually how many nulls are there. So let me show you. So if you see, we have kind of 5 entries. So each column, they should have 5 not null values, but you can see each column has 4 not null values. That means in each columns you have kind of 1 nulls. This is one way. This is the best way to see how many nulls each of this column has, which is dot sum. If you just add one more dot sum, it's going to do entire null, and it's going to give you the results, the total null. So total null we have 3. You can see it here, you are getting 3. So this dot sum function is very useful. It's going to simply count the number of nulls. If you don't want to see the count, so this is how you see how many nulls are there if your data frame is very small. Now if you want to find the nulls for specific 1 columns or 2 columns, then you can define the columns here. Before giving is null, you can just define the columns, right? Let's say I want to only see the nulls for sales ID. So you can see I only see the data frame of sales ID and is null, and I can see the null which is 1, right? Now if you want to see for more than 1 columns, you just need to put double square brackets, and you can put all the columns name here. Now you have learned how to find missing values or null for specific columns or for the entire data frame. Next we will see how to kind of deal with those nulls or those missing values. So you have 2 options. One is called replace, and one is called dropping the entire column or entire rows. Okay, let's go ahead and kind of see how we can delete wherever we have nulls. Now we already know that data frame 4 of is null, and we know that this record has a null. So we can either delete this entire columns, this customer column, or we can delete this specific rows wherever we have null. So let's first see if in case I want to delete this specific rows wherever I have nulls, what I have to do. Now to delete specific rows or columns, you can simply say df dot, which is data frame dot drop now. So this drop now is used to kind of delete the nulls. Okay, so you can say drop now, and if you want to see more about these functions, we can just go ahead and see that it says remove missing values. So wherever we have a missing values, it's going to remove that. So here we have something called access. So if you want to see more about this drop now, we can execute this query. So you see it is asking something for axis. So by default the axis is going to be 0. That means it's going to drop based on the row. But if you give the axis equals 1, it's going to drop based on a column. So basically if there is any column that has a null, entire column is going to be deleted. That's only if you give the axis equals 1. We will see both. Okay, so first let's go ahead and say that drop na, and I'm not defining anything at the moment. So let's see. So you can see that it has dropped all those records wherever we have a null earlier. Earlier we have nulls in 4 records, so that is gone. So we had null here, so this record is gone, and this record is gone, this record is gone. So we have null in 2 columns. So basically this columns and this column 2 null, this column 1 null, right? So both the columns are gone. We can see 3 results. Again, this is not implemented in the actual data frame, but you can see the nice output. You can save it in another new data frame, or you can kind of, what you can do here is that you can just say in place equals true. That's how it's going to delete in actual data frame. Before saying in place, let me just show you the actual data frame here, which is called df4. You see actual data frames showing that still the same. That means it has not deleted, but if you just ignore it, you have seen earlier that this kind of return the results while dropping this results. So you can just implement something called in place equals true, and you would see that it is implemented in the actual data frame. Now we don't have those missing values in the actual data frame. Now I have learned how to kind of identify null for a specific columns, or how to identify null for all the columns. Now let's go ahead and see how to kind of delete the records wherever we have nulls for one columns, or maybe for all the columns. We have seen how to drop entire records where there's a null in the kind of one rows or more than one rows, but we will see how to drop specific records where we have null in the one rows. So let me just show you the data frame 3 which I have here, and you can see in the data frame 3 I have the in the product name I have this is missing, and in the price I have 2 record is missing. Okay, so I would want to drop everything wherever there is a null. So for that I can just simply go ahead and say drop na. So that's going to drop all the records with the missing values. So that means these 2 records, right? So I can just execute it. You can see those records are gone, but this is not gone from the actual data frame. For that I would just need to use in place equals true. So now that is fine. Let's say what I want to do is that I want to drop based on only one columns where this product name is missing. I want to drop it. Where the price is not missing, I don't want to drop it. So for that, what you can do here is that this drop name actually take a subset. So in the subset, you can give your column names, which is called product. Okay. Now what I'm saying, for the product, find out the missing values and drop it the whole records if the product name is missing, because we cannot replace this product name, but for the price we can replace with something else. We will see that. So that is fine. Now if I again go ahead and run this, you will see that that specific record is gone where the product name is missing, but this record is not gone because here the price name is missing, because we have used a subset here. If you want to implement in the actual data frame, you can just say in place equals true. That's how you can see it will be implemented in the actual data frame. Now I can print the actual data frame. You see that record is gone where the product name was missing. Okay, so this is very, very important concept, by the way. Now I have seen how to delete the entire records based on a specific columns, right? That is fine. Let's see the next topic. Now in the next topic, we will be learning how to kind of replace this null instead of dropping it, how to replace the null. Okay, so if in case you have this price columns, so you can replace this null using something called mean. So let's see how to find mean for a specific column. So let's say I have a column called df3. I have a data frame which is df3 of a column called maybe the price column. So this is the price column. You see I have the entire column series as a series here, right? So as a series I can use this function which is called sum. That's going to return me the total sum of this, which is called 2597. You can count it, that's correct. I can use mean as well. That's going to return the mean, which is called 865. Okay, I can use the count as well. That's going to return the total count, which is 3. Okay, because it doesn't count the null. Okay, so that's fine. Now what I want in this price column, if this price is missing, I want to replace with something called, which is called mean. Okay, before that let's learn how to replace with something else, anything that you want to replace with, maybe any numbers or 0. Okay, so you can say data frame 3 and I want to replace, so I would use fillna. So this is the function which you use, fillna. You can see more about it, what this fillna is does. Okay, so we would say fillna, and what I want to replace, very simple something with 0. So everything I want to replace with 0. So you can see that here I have one missing, it's been replaced by 0. I have 2 missing, replaced by 0. Okay, so you can replace with something called na. This time it is replaced by na. Okay, you can replace with something called missing. This time it is replaced by missing. So whatever you want to replace with the entire data frame, it is going to replace. So you need to put the records here. Okay, so that is fine. Now what I want to replace for any specific column, that is called price. So I would need to kind of use that specific columns which is here. So the column is called price, and I'm saying that for the price column I want to replace this all the missing price with something which is called average. So I can say maybe $25. I want to replace with $25, and if you run it, you see that is been replaced by the $25. Okay, so all the price wherever it didn't find any price, it replaced with $25. But if in case you want to replace it with something else, which is maybe this mean, so this function return the mean, right? So you can put this kind of syntax which is inside, and if you just execute it, now you can see it is replaced by this mean. Okay, so this is returning mean, and then we're replacing by the mean. If in case you want to implement in the actual data frame, if you see the actual data frame, it has not yet implemented this, still we have this missing. So for that we would just need to kind of come out of this. For that I can just use one more parameters, just give a comma here. I can say in place equals true, and you can see now this time it has implemented in the actual data frame using simple fill now. Now what you have learned using the fill now, you can replace the entire data frame, all the missing values, or you can replace with specific columns. If you want to replace it more than one columns, then you just need to put all the columns separating by comma inside double square brackets. Okay, now let's see one more topic which I left in the drop now, which is called dropping the entire records where there is a null. Okay, so let's go ahead and create one more data frame here, maybe this one. Okay, and I would just go ahead and run a query here. So in this data frame, order ID doesn't have any null, this product ID have one null, and this price has basically two nulls. Okay, so let's go ahead and execute it. So this time what I want is that any column that has any null records, I want to delete the entire columns. Okay, so if you want to delete the entire columns, that means this column is going to be deleted, which is called price, and this product, because they have some null. Okay, so for that what you just need to say is that you need to say df3, which is your data frame name, and you can say drop na, which is called drop na, and you just need to use something called x is equals 1. Okay, x is equals 1 means it's going to drop the entire data frame based on a column. If you don't define it, by default x is equals 0, that means it drop row by row. If there's a missing in that row is deleted like this one. Okay, let me just show you x is equals 0. You would see that this row is going to be gone, and this is going to be gone because they both have some missing values. Okay, let's see. You see both the rows are gone, we have 3 rows, right? But if I use this x is 1, it's going to delete the entire column. These 2 columns are gone because they have some null values. So this is how you can use this on drop na and using this axis. So that is how you can kind of delete the entire columns if there is a null. Okay, so that is it. Now you have learned how to identify duplicates and how to kind of remove duplicates, and you have also learned kind of how to find missing values, how to drop missing values, the entire columns or entire rows, or how to find missing values for specific columns or specific rows and delete the entire columns. Then you have learned how to use a fill net to kind of fill the missing values with mean or maybe any numbers or any text. So let's now go ahead and see our next topic, that is going to be kind of changing column names or data types. Okay, so changing column name and data types. Okay, so let's first see all the columns of df3. So in the df3, it seems we have something called price, and we have something called product, we have something called order ID. So let's say for this price, I can see it is a float, I have some decimal, I want to change it to something called int. Okay, so for that we would just need to select that columns which is I want to change, that's going to be kind of price, and you can use something called s type. Okay, now before that, let me just show you how you can find out all the columns and their data types once again. So for that, you can just go ahead and say that df, which is called df3 d types. Okay, so d type function returns all the columns and their data types. So you can see here we have order ID, the data type is int, we have product ID, data type is object, we have price, the data type is float. So for this price, we want to change the data type to int from the float. So for that, what you just need to do is that you can say df of price, and you can say s type. So there is a function called s type that changes the data type. So you can say s type, inside this parenthesis you can give your new data type. So let's say I want to change it with int. So int means no decimal numbers, right? So let's go ahead and run it. Alright, so I'm getting some error. The reason is that you cannot convert a float into int, but you can convert int into float. So let's see, maybe for the order ID, let's say for the order ID it's a int, let's change it to float. Okay, so for that I would just need to say order ID here, because see why you cannot change a float to int, because float may have some decimal portion, so that is not going to be ignored. So for that we need to use something called round up, right? Called round up. So let's see now this one. So for float it did work, you can see this time it has kind of changed the order id to float, so we can see some decimal portion. But if you print the actual data frame, you can see it has not implemented, okay, because this function doesn't take in place parameters. So you cannot define in place parameters here because it only takes a class which is called float or int, right? So the way you can implement it is that you just need to change this new data frame, and you need to change the new data frame in the actual data frame. So for that you can just say df of 3 and you can say this order id. So this time what I'm saying is that, say I am updating this df of 3 order id data types with this. So this is kind of changing the actual data types of df order id, and I'm then just implementing it in the actual data frame. You can using this equals operators here. Now if I just print the actual data frame df3, you will see that it has this time changed this, which is called into floats, okay. So this is how you can use this as a type to kind of change in the actual data frame, okay. So we would be dealing with this a lot of times. So now let's see our last topic, which is going to be changing the columns name. So we have a data frame which is called df3, and let's use this one to change the column names. Let's add a markdown call changing column name, okay. So here I want to change this order id to maybe something called id. So the syntax is very simple. You can say dot and you can just say rename, and here you just need to use something called columns as a parameter. So columns equals, inside it you need to pass the argument as a dict, like key value pair. So let's say we want to change this order id with id, so I would say order id, and I'm going to change it with something called id, okay. If you want to make a change in the actual data frame, then you just need to use in place equals true, which is outside this curly brackets. Now we can print the actual data frame, and you would see that this id, the order id column has changed to id. If in case you want to change multiple columns together, then you just need to pass multiple arguments here. So you can pass second argument that you want to change, that is maybe, let me just put this in place in the next line. Let's say second I want to change this product name to something called name, okay. So I would just use product, and I'm going to change it with something called p name, okay. I also want to change maybe the price equals amount, okay. So price to something called amount, okay, or total. So I need to use in place to ensure that this get implemented in the actual data frames. So let's go ahead and run it. Before that, you can see I have id, product id, and the price. Now I would need to just kind of change it to id to maybe product id, PID, okay, because now the data frame has something called ID. So df3, you can see it has ID. So ID I'm changing to PID this time. This is how you can change the columns name, and we have earlier seen how to change the column data types, okay. So column data types, you can change it using this s type, and you need to store it back because there is no in place of functions. But here you have this in place parameters. Using this in place parameters, you can kind of store it. Now whenever you want to know like if there's in place or not, so you can just type maybe the functions, and let's say df3 dot rename, and you can just type these functions. You can see here you have this the function definitions, right? So you would be able to see that to make changes in the actual data frame, so you need to use in place. You see it says that in place equals bool, that means true or false. So that means if in case you want to make a change in the actual data frames, you need to say in place equals true. If true, then the value copy is ignored, okay. Otherwise you get a basically copy of the data, and if you set it true, then it changes that same thing in the actual data frame. So a lot of time we will be using this in place, so get yourself familiar with this in place topic. Now in the next video we are going to clean all those data. So let's have a quick look of this data. So let's go ahead and see maybe this Walmart sales data. So we have a lot of nulls here, and let's open it in finders, and we will see this Walmart sales data. So you can see this data has some duplicates, and these informations are missing here. We will be kind of fixing it, okay. Let's see something else. So we have some duplicates as well. You can see 16, 17, 18, 19 is duplicates of the 16, 17, 18, 19. This 14 is also duplicates of this 14, okay. So we have duplicates, and we have a lot of like messy things here. So we would be cleaning in the tomorrow's video. Tomorrow we will be creating first of all one functions which is going to be automatically clean our data. So it's going to just ask for the data name. So you will be giving the data path, and it is going to clean the data, and you would be getting the output, nice output, like okay, this is your data frame, this is your total columns, and this is the records which has been duplicates, and you will see all the duplicates, and then you will see all the clean data. You will also see how many records it has removed, and all those things we will be capturing something called record removed, and we will be capturing all the duplicates which it is going to remove. We will be capturing that into something called duplicate data frame. So then you would be getting your output. So basically we're going to create automation functions that's simply going to ask you the data frame name. It is going to find the duplicates. It's going to kind of capture the duplicates in a new data frame. It's going to save that so that you can reuse in the later on, and then it is going to find the missing values. It's going to capture it, and then it is going to replace it or drop it, and then whatever it is going to do, it is going to capture those things, and at the end you are going to get a clean data with along with all the detailed report. Now today I want you to solve all these problems whatever I have solved in this video, and tomorrow we are going to create that functions together. So that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching the video till the end. Have a good one. Take care. Bye bye.